How many weeks do we have left, y'all? How many weeks? What's up, y'all? It is Tasha back with another Married at First Sight review. Y'all know the drill. Like, comment. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you have not already subscribed to the channel. Let's jump into this week's episode because, quite frankly, I'm tired. It just went off and I'm just ready to get this information out of me so I can go to bed peacefully and not stressed out like these couples are. Okay, let's go. Season 13, episode 14, Country Chaos this week. So with only 2 weeks left until decision day, of course, it's now for the couples to go on a retreat to a ranch. We see Brent and Ryan getting ready to go, and we know this is right up Ryan's alley. Brent, not so much because she ain't no country outdoor kind of girl, you know. Bao says that her and Johnny, they're not in a good place, but she's excited to reconnect with the other couples, but not so much about going with Johnny. I'm like, dang, Bao, I don't blame you though, but dang, we're going on a couples retreat and we ain't even excited to be a couple, okay? We see Zack saying that Michaela had moved out, but yet he's calling her and says that they have resolved the situation. I'm like, the definition of toxic, child, is this relationship. He says that this morning is going to be the first time seeing her since, you know, she left and everything. But, you know, he wants her to apologize. And I'm like, okay, keep waiting on that from Michaela Zack. We see all the couples getting ready and they're all driving to the ranch. Johnny asks Bao if she likes road trips. And she says, yeah, with the right people, i.e. not you. Brent starts to tell Ryan about the discussion she had with his sister and basically tells him that, you know, his sister was like, there must be a distraction here. So Ryan is kind of looking all jittery and he's like, so how did that even come up? And, you know, she says, you know, well, we were just wondering since we haven't had the best communication and things kind of changed once we came back here from the honeymoon. So what's up? And Ryan acts like he just don't know what to say or what to do. Like he started sweating bullets at any minute now. I'm like, Ryan, is there somebody else, sir? And then he says, so do you think I'm just telling, you know, other people things that I'm not telling you? And I'm like, but sir, that's exactly what you are doing. You're telling everybody else everything except for telling Brett, your sister, you guys, the girls, everybody, the dog. You're telling everybody except for Brent. That's exactly what you're doing, Ryan. So Brent says that, you know, other people have just said that he has told them that he just wants to be friends with her. And he starts to get a bit defensive and says, you know, if I don't feel anything, I just don't feel anything. But he says he doesn't know if everything needs to be said and he cares about actions more than words. And I'm like, so if that's the case, what have your actions or your words said at this point, sir? Because I have not seen any effort on either side. So if your actions think they're doing something, maybe you should let them know they're not, because they're not. We then see Zack and Michaela driving and they stop at this little farm before the retreat to kind of talk. She says that she got a chance to talk to her sisters and his brothers, and she says she's in a better place now. She said she can pinpoint her triggers so that she can really just try to discover how she even gets there. Zack asks if the communication issue is something they can overcome, and she says she thinks it is. They feed hay to baby goats, and Zack is basically nicer to the goats than he is to Michaela. He is taking pictures of her, saying, you know, she's in her element, she's the goat queen, and they laugh and they have fun. And I'm just like, these two are just so hot and cold. It is literally like turning on and off a light switch. You turn it on, they're great. You turn it off, things just all go to hell. I just don't understand. He asks if they can sleep in the same bed tonight, and she says yes, and he's excited. And then she asks why, and he says because it's going to be fun like it always is. So I'm like, so basically you just want to sleep with her. I mean, there's no other way to put that, Zack. You just want to have sex with her. Point blank and the period. Okay. Zack and Michaela are the first to arrive at the retreat, and it legit looks like a barn from the outside, but it's really cute in the inside, all laid out. Next, Jose and Rachel show up. Jose in his tight pants and his Yeti cup, looking like the president of the homeowners association child. Rachel says that this will be fun spending time with other couples, but she really needs to focus on her husband since things are going well. And I was like, y'all continue to tell yourselves that. We just gonna roll with it at this point. So Mirla and Gil show up. Mirla almost busts her ass walking into the door with her heels on, and they actually had to end up bringing Hype with them because the sitter canceled last minute. Y'all know Mirla ain't happy with staying with the other couples because she don't like being in other people's houses, and she don't like being around a bunch of other people all the time. So she wished they could have just stayed somewhere else. Johnny and Bao show up. And Mirla stays in the room as kind of the other couples are welcoming, getting to know each other and talking and things. And she's just like, I'm not interested. Johnny says that he's only worried because he's sure the other couples are all supposed to stay in a room together. Like, he's like, I'm sure there's only enough rooms for like all the couples to actually stay together. And I said, so I guess he's saying that because he does not want to sleep in a room with Bao. Anyway, it's time for them to cook dinner. Men go outside and cook. Some of the women and other people stay inside. Some people don't help at all. And then Britt and Ryan finally show up. So as they're eating, Ryan gets the conversation started today, and he checks in on the couple since they had volleyball, the volleyball game, which was at this point was a couple days ago. Mirla says, oh, we're getting a divorce because Gil wants 8 kids. We know that ain't the truth. Zack says that he and Michaela had an interesting couple of days, but now they're in a good spot. And once again, y'all stay going back and forth, hot and cold. You can't just have good and bad days that quickly with the amount of passion and anger that you guys have in your arguments. Like, it just does not resolve itself that quickly. I just don't get it. They asked Johnny how he and Bao are doing, and he's like, well, you know, and Gil is like, no, we don't know. Gil just be wanting all the tea so him and Mirla can talk about it later on in bed. And then funny part here is Zack and Michaela starts to give kind of advice on communication and being honest and just discussing things, and even if it's difficult. And I'm just like, how y'all giving advice when y'all at a whole shit show yourself? I don't understand. I don't understand how you trying to help somebody else. So Johnny gives Brent some cookies from the whole group that are shaped like little dog bones with Baxter's name on it in honor of Baxter. Brent really thanks everybody for, you know, calling, sending texts and things like that during this difficult time. She said it really just meant a lot to her. We see Ryan kind of just hanging out. They're not even sitting next to each other. And he's like, you know, he knew Baxter for a little while and he know it's been hard on her and he really did like him. But she really wished that she would use him more as a comfort. And I'm like, but Ryan, have you made it an environment conducive of her being comfortable and going to you to seek comfort? No, you have not. So what do you mean? You wish she would just, you know, be a bigger comfort and, you know that she is just, you are there for her. Like, you have not provided that space for her to feel comfortable doing so, sir. Anyway, they all light sparklers in honor of Baxter and call it the night. So basically all the couples start to get ready for bed for the most part, except for Johnny, Bao, Brett, and Ryan, the couples that are struggling the most at this point. Johnny basically asks about their sleep arrangement. Johnny is asking this to Brett and Ryan, and Ryan basically says he doesn't have a problem sleeping with Brett, and Brett is like, pump the brakes. Like, what do you mean? We don't sleep together at home. How are we gonna come somewhere else and all of a sudden you don't have a problem with us sleeping together? Like, she didn't get it and I didn't get it either. So basically it looks like from the end of it, Brett and Bao end up taking the beds. Johnny and Ryan play rock, paper, scissors and basically deciding who's going to take, I guess there's an extra bedroom and who's going to take the couch. Ryan ends up losing and he actually has to sleep on the couch. Basically, Johnny says as they're talking before they go to bed, he is trying to make the best of an awkward situation on the couples retreat, and he is trying to spend the least amount of time with Bao because he doesn't want to argue in front of the other couples. And I'm like, geesh, thanks. You just keep being on the roll, Johnny, of just saying terrible things. Ryan says that Brent has checked out, which he says is weird because he told Dr. Pepper that he would put in more effort. And I'm like, Ryan, you can't expect her to now be ready when you are supposedly ready. But also you can't expect her to now all of a sudden believe that you're going to put in extra effort because you said this over and over and over again at this point, and you have still not put in any extra effort. So at what point does she believe what you're saying? And at what point does she just continue to call it BS? And she's just sick and tired of it. And I don't blame her. We are 12 days from decision day. We see Michaela, Zack, Jose, Rachel, and Gil. They're outside playing cornhole. They make a little bet on it. Zack and Michaela lose and end up having to take shots. The ladies talk and Brent asks if there's any unanswered things that they need to discuss. Well, Michaela was talking about the two of them and said that, them being honest with each other has really created a I don't care type of atmosphere, which is, of course, not really conducive and healthy to anybody. But she says, even in the mix of that, we maybe have found love. And I'm like, y'all just are so dysfunctional, honey. I can't with the two of y'all. Zack talks with the guys and tells them about her moving out and leaving in the situation, of her saying, well, just go ahead and leave, and then him leaving, and then her getting upset that she actually left. And I'm just like, she already told you leaving is a trigger. And I feel like every time you bring up the situation to other people, you downplay it in such a way of, she said to leave, so I left. But knowing what you know about her, Zack, you know how that is going to make her feel. And you know the reaction that you're going to get out of her by leaving. She said that already. And you continue to use that as a threat towards her. Like, I don't get at this point why you are surprised or shocked at her behavior when you talk about leaving, when you know this is a trigger for her. So at this point, it should not be a surprise that she's going to get upset when you say that you're leaving. So Michaela says that she noticed basically that they both clash, and it's hard for either one of them to basically submit or back down when they're having disagreements, and I agree. Bao says that they have trust and commitment from their partner, that her and Brent have commitment and trust issues from their partner, which she says is different from what Michaela and Zack is having. Rachel talks about having rose-colored glasses on in other relationships, how she's like, it's crazy how I was in these relationships and, I would text and call and think about them and all this stuff, and they would not basically return those feelings. And I'm like, but you kind of have the same thing going on with Jose in a sense of y'all had that one argument. And I feel like since then you put these rose-colored glasses back on as well. And it's like, oh, we're doing great. Everything is great. We're in love. He's the best person ever. When it's like, deep down inside, he is not. But you continue to say that as if the more you say it, the more you believe it. I don't know. But whatever. She says after their argument that they had that it kind of forced them to put everything out on the table, and he was getting polite, Rachel, but now, she's just going to begin to point things out when she gets upset about things that he's done. And if he gets upset, she's totally okay with that. And I'm like, okay, girl, if you say so. Brent says, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm myself from the very beginning. And Michaela says the same, and kind of Mirla shakes her head in agreement as well. She says that basically she kind of puts herself out there, and if she's rejected in the beginning, she then kind of coils back into herself, which we currently see her doing. Ryan says he just wants to try something different. That's why he wanted to sleep together the previous night. Zack then asks, well, how is her not wanting to sleep together, last night while y'all were here? How is that different than when you guys are at home and y'all not sleeping together? And Ryan is just like, that's a good question. But then he has yet to answer it because he knows it makes no damn sense. Let's be real. Johnny says he learns that he's a bit more emotional than he thought he was. When they go back to the girls, Bao says she's disappointed in the marriage. And just to be honest, she's disappointed in Johnny. She says she's been very patient in the face of meanness, but she's had enough. And I'm like, you say that, but your actions show you have not had enough because you're still here taking in more. She says that she has replayed their arguments in her head kind of over and over to see, if something she said or something she did basically is triggering these type of reactions and causing him to be so mean towards her. And I'm like, girl, you can't be responsible for somebody's actions to that extent. He is a grown-up. He has to learn how to control himself and how to choose the proper words to express his emotions, point blank in the period, without being a complete asshole, especially to your wife. She then talks about her parents and their marriage. She says that they've been married for over 50 years, and she says that they've had a great marriage, but says that there's some verbal abuse that had happened. And I'm like, I think you, and I of course don't know the culture, but I really think Bao needs to have a conversation with her parents, because I got confused here, because I'm like, how can they have a great marriage if you said that there was verbal abuse present, and you talked about how your dad was a drunk and he had a bad reputation in the neighborhood and things like that? Like, how can he do that but yet be a great spouse as well? So I think I would want her to have that conversation with her mom or with her parents to figure out really what went on in their marriage. Because as kids, I don't think you really know all the details. You just see that they're still married, they're somewhat happy, they get along, they don't argue in front of us, but you don't see the things that happen behind closed doors. And as you get older and have your own marriage, I think it's time to kind of dig deeper in that, because you may be trying to portray what you saw growing up when that was not even a fourth of the story that was actually going on in the marriage. So I would want her to explore that, because she may just have a totally different view of what she think their marriage was compared to what it actually is in real time, in real life. But she says that she realized that she kind of did devalue herself, and she put up with a lot more than she wanted to, and basically says kind of that Johnny isn't worth her time. And I'm like, okay, Bao, because we know you're still going to be here trying, so whatever. Mirla and Gil go ride horses, and Mirla actually enjoys this because she says that she used to do this as a little girl in Mexico. And child, Gil has on the tightest pants. Like, I'm shocked he didn't bust a seam in those things when he jumped on top of that horse, okay? Mirla says, oh, I wanted the horse to go faster. I wanted us to ride longer. And Gil is like, are you ever just, was it just ever just fun? And that's period. Like, no butts coming after. And she ends up saying, it was fun. And then she just leaves it as that. And he asks, how she kind of felt with him giving her that kind of feedback. And she said she was fine with it and she received it because she says, the more she kind of knows how he feels about things, the more she's able to kind of correct herself. And I said, look at Mirla, she is falling in love with Gil. Do you hear me? Next, we see Brett, Ryan, Johnny, and Bao. They got some guns. They shooting something. I don't know what it is. And of course, Ryan is going to show off because, child, just like the golfing, this is his element. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to show y'all that he know what he's doing, okay? Bao does try, but Johnny and Brent are not interested. Bao, she struggles with the gun, and it goes off unintentionally, so luckily she didn't kill anybody. Ryan said that basically Brent completely shut down, and he was disappointed because he wanted to do something, with the both of them and really have fun with the whole shooting thing. And again, I'm like, Ryan, just because this is fun for you does not mean it's going to be fun for Brent. Brent kind of made it clear on, I believe that was the reception, that, she's not really this country girl hunting outdoors and all this. So I don't know why you would think that this would be an activity that y'all could connect on when this is something that she is not interested in at all. Could she have tried? Absolutely. But this was not going to be some mind-blowing connection because this is not her thing. The child is terrified of the gun going off, okay? So Johnny and Brent really talk about their communication, and they're kind of on opposite ends. We know that Johnny and Bao have had these huge blow-ups and disagreements. Brent and Ryan, on the other hand, not so much. Everything is pretty much civil, but it's because they really don't talk about anything. So they really have no reason to get into these huge arguments because they don't talk. So there's that. But Brent says she wants them to be more honest with each other because she just feel like they, I think she said he beats around the bush, but I'm like, y'all both beat around the bush, okay? None of y'all are straightforward with your discussions and communication. So Brett and Ryan end up talking, and he says he needs to know the best course of action going forward. She says that his actions don't match up with his words, and I'm like, exactly. I said that when he was saying that in the car about actions are better than words. Sir, you don't do none of the above, so where do we go from here? He said that he didn't have a problem with them sleeping together once they were actually at the ranch, but of course, Brent is asking like, well, why? Because you've said that, sleep is just so big for you and we never sleep together at home. Like, I just don't get it because I'm trying to listen, and what you're telling me, I'm trying to really take that, hold that piece accountable, even if it's at the detriment to myself. I'm going to try to just do, whatever it is that you wish or you need to do for you, which I feel like we've seen her do that. But then he says that he was trying to be an adult about it, and now she's basically made a scene about it. And I'm like, it's only two of y'all outside. How is she making a scene about it? She's not bringing this up in front of all of the other couples. So, yeah, Ryan, stop it. He basically says he was looking for an opportunity to follow through on what he said to Dr. Pepper about, him trying more. But while he is saying this, he looks completely disinterested the entire time. So I'm like, Sir, can maybe your face and your brain communicate a little bit better so that the words that your brain is telling to come out of your mouth match with the facial expressions that we see, and you don't always look so sad, like you are just over life in general. Like, my goodness, Ryan. And then he says he was just trying to be positive, but she says he goes negative so fast. And then when she calls him out about it, as he has requested her to do, he then gets even more negative and gets upset, as he is doing in this very moment. And Brent looks completely fed up with it. She says that when people express their feelings to her, again, she obeys them, and sometimes at the detriment of herself. She knows she's done everything under the sun, and she has been open and just tries to respect him and what he said. He acknowledges that he wasn't doing a lot of things and he could change. He acknowledges that he wasn't doing a lot, and if he could change something, he would not assume that his actions are being perceived the same by someone else. And again, I'm like, what actions? And for like the 100th time, he says that he's going to keep trying. And I'm like, okay, Ryan, we going to keep trying. I don't know what trying looks like to you, but I guess we just going to keep doing this. I am over it, y'all. So Zack and Michaela once again talk about their idea of marriage. Zack just wants marriage to be cupcakes and rainbows, honey. He just wants to be happy most of the time. He knows there's going to be disagreements, but he just want to be happy. He just want to be happy, child. He feels like his feelings have been consistent, which again, I don't agree, because y'all both are completely hot and cold all the time. He says that, she fluctuates, and she says that, she feels like she's the only one, trying to really make something better. And immediately when she starts saying that, his body language starts to change. Like, at first he's really relaxed, and then he starts kind of sitting up, straightening out his arms. Like, he kind of starts to get a little bit tense, and you can automatically almost see the mood start to shift between the two of them. Oh, he says if she doesn't know by now the consistency and the effort that he's put in, then he just don't know, when you gonna realize it. And I'm like, are we watching the same thing? Are we seeing the same? And are you living what we're actually seeing, or is this just a figment of our imagination? Because I don't get it, Zack. I don't get it. They say that the night before that they talked about, neither one of them are being themselves, and they had decided on getting a divorce. He said they would take a break, come back together, basically get divorced, come back together and start to date and see where things go from there, is kind of what I gathered. She says she thinks that they have a little more inner work to do, that neither of them expected for marriage to be this much work. And he says that he didn't think marriage was going to be that much work, but he thinks that marriage with her is a lot of work, and he wants to be sure we are clear on that. It is not marriage that's a lot of work. It is marriage with you that's a lot of work. And I'm like, okay, Zack, here you go. You starting it. Don't be mad at her reaction. You starting it. And then it gets even more confusing, because he then circles back around and says that I know marriage is going to be hard. I know it's not going to be, cupcakes and rainbows all the time, but it's really hard with you, and it's not supposed to be this hard. And like, y'all, he started talking and I started getting confused myself. I'm like, but marriage is hard, but it's not hard, but it's hard. I am confused, Zack. Y'all, he is confusing me. So Michaela then says, so if marriage is that hard with me, why would you want to continue any type of relationship with me? He says, oh, it'd be different circumstances because we're no longer married. And Michaela gets up and starts yelling. She's like, I cannot. And I am thinking the same thing, because I'm like, other than the title of husband and wife, what is really going to be different? Y'all already have a damaged foundation that you have created. So what is dating after getting a divorce on decision day? What is that going to change when it does not change fundamentally who each of you are? And that's what it seems that each of you have a problem with each other. It's not the marriage that's the problem. It's that y'all two are not compatible. So I truly don't understand where Zack was coming from in that situation and why things would be different. So I could totally understand Michaela getting up and walking away and being like, I can't, because I was like, what? Make it make sense. Like, if y'all understand, Please drop down in the comments below, because I just do not understand how this makes sense. So, of course, Zack is starting to get upset, and he's like, why am I here? Why am I here? So he says, you know, if they aren't married, they can work on this relationship outside of the process. She asks if removing marriage changes who she is. She asks if he is ready for marriage, and he says yes. She asks if he is ready for marriage with her, and he says in this process, absolutely not. So he then says he has nothing else left to give, and he, you know, basically can't wait to leave this space with her as they're sitting outside. And he just gets up, walks away, goes inside, and has to say damn as he's shutting the door. I just don't get it, that I feel like Zack gets aggravated with Michaela, but he does not recognize how he completely talks in circles, and what he says doesn't make sense. And when what he says doesn't make sense and Michaela does not understand it, he gets frustrated. So instead of like, and I'll be honest, I don't know if he can explain it any better, because I just don't think it makes sense. But I think that he gets upset because she does not see things through the lens he does. And he just expects her to kind of fall in line, almost just like Jose, with how he gets upset when Rachel kind of just doesn't fall in line. Child, I don't know. Michaela then talks to Bao because she comes outside, and, you know, she says the night before, Zack says, you know, that marriage isn't for him, and he may need to do some extra work on himself. But then, of course, when we saw him outside, he said that he was ready for marriage, just not with her. Bao thinks that both of their egos are just getting in the way, and doesn't think Michaela should punish him for not being ready, because they just may not be on the same time frame. And I'm like, here we go, Bao, the person that is continuing to push through in a toxic relationship, trying to give advice for somebody else to push through in a toxic relationship. Blind leading the blind, just like Ryan and Johnny. So no. Michaela says that if love is true, they should try to make it work, and she's just going to try to have a good time for the rest of the retreat. And I'm like, problem is the love is not true between the two of y'all. That's why this is why this is so difficult, and y'all having such a hard time. So basically, after they get done eating, Brent is bringing up a game, and it's basically like senior superlatives, you know, most likely to be president, most likely to end up in jail, blah, blah, blah. And they do that. So the first one is they ask who is most likely to have kids first, and everybody says Rachel and Jose. And I'm like, please don't have children. Most likely to end up in rehab, and most people say Johnny. Most likely to leave a party early. We all know who that is. Party pooper Mirla. Most likely to be a drama queen. Child, I was like, that is Johnny. Drama queen all the way, okay? And most likely to be petty, looks like it was kind of a toss-up between Michaela and Rachel. And we all know that Michaela is petty because she took the seasoning last week when she moved out. So they all look to be having a good time. And Michaela just continues to go in about how petty she can be. And Zack is not amused by it in the least bit, honey. His face just shows it all. So Zack and Michaela get in bed, and Zack pretty much looks pissed already. She comes in the bed smiling. He's on his phone, and his face just looks like I'm about to drop a bomb on her and exit stage left. Like, it already looks like that, and she just does not look like she's prepared to what is about to come. So he says he thinks the conversation they had earlier was unacceptable, and he cannot continue to put himself in these situations. She talks about, you know, the conversation she had with Bao, and says that things were great. And he says, you know, I just think I see two different Michaelas. And I'm just like, here we go again. Zack, sometimes I don't know if Zack think he is perfect or what, but it's like, sir, the same thing that you kind of complain about her, you exhibit some of those same behaviors. But it's like he can't identify it in himself, but he can identify it in her, which is so weird. But she starts to talk, and he says he's just ready to move on. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move. And I'm like, you can't. That's not how you resolve conflict. Like, Zack, Michaela blows up, but you definitely add gasoline to this fire each and every time she has a reaction. And I don't care what y'all say. Y'all can be Team Zack all day, but he definitely adds a little bit of lighter fluid to this situation each and every time. Does she go completely left? Absolutely. But is he completely blameless? Absolutely not. So, he says all that, and she's like, well, you can go home. You can go home. You can leave. She says that she wished she had driven by herself so that she would have a ride back home the next day. And then he says, so you're not riding back with me? Because if that's the case, you're not riding back with me tomorrow. I'll just go home tonight. And she says, bye. Go ahead. And then she says, I don't need you to take me home. You can go home. So I'm like, here we go yet again. Zack is leaving. No surprise here. This is going to trigger her. We already know that. So she asks what happened tonight to basically make him have a change of heart. Because she feel like they just had a good night with the other couples. And now all of a sudden this has come back around and they're having yet again another argument. And she said that she didn't want to ride back with him tomorrow. And she is calling her sister because she's seen if her sister can come pick her up so that Zack can go ahead and go. So she's talking to her sister. Zack's like, who are you talking to? Give me the phone. So he tells the sister they had a miscommunication and he didn't want to leave. And it was okay, for her to ride home together tomorrow. But she didn't want to. So I'm like, can y'all stop bringing other people into this drama? Like, nobody else wants to be put up with this, because then in 2 days, y'all gonna be like, oh, we're good. We're good. 2 days ago, that never happened. We're doing fine now. They both get on my nerves. Zack says, I just don't feel like myself right now. And I guess he's blaming how he feels on Michaela, again, taking no responsibility from himself. So he says he just needs to remove himself from the situation. Michaela then says, which y'all got to give it to it. At this moment, after she gets at the phone with her sister, she's being pretty level-headed. Like, she's not cursing at this moment. She's not raising her voice. She's not being overly aggressive. Like, she is speaking to him pretty calmly as he's getting up, starting to get dressed, get his stuff packed up so that he can leave. She's not Hurricane K in this moment. So she's like, we're both tired and I don't think it's safe for you to drive the countryside tonight. She says, I think we should just go to sleep or at least take a nap. You can wake up and then you can leave. But he's like, nope, I'm leaving now. He starts to pack his stuff up. He starts to walk out the door, and then they're still arguing as they get outside of their room. Nosy Bow starts to peek her head through the door like, what is going on? I need to know the tea. I need to know what's happening. So then we see Michaela as he starts to leave. She then starts to get a bit irate, and she pulls his luggage back into the room, and she's like, you want to see how petty I can be? And she starts blowing up in this moment. Bao says, I've never seen a side of Zack and Michaela like this. Like, it's just got pretty much really ugly, and she just never expected to see this. He gets his luggage and he goes outside because the other couples are still outside, and he goes to tell them bye, that he's leaving. And we see the other ladies are kind of like, it's late, why are you leaving so late? Maybe you should just wait. And he just, of course, can't take it anymore. He has to go. So Michaela comes outside, and he is just begging to leave. Can I go? Can I just leave? Can I go? I'm just trying to leave. Can I leave? Zack, get your baby ass in the car. If you want to leave that bad, quit making a whole production of it and telling the other couples bye, and just get your stuff, get your keys, get in your car and go, sir. If you want to go that bad, go. Like, oh my God, you were acting. Okay. So Michaela comes outside, she's trying to, again, tell him not to leave, just wait. And Ryan is just like, isn't that we can do to make him stay? He trying to make him leave. Michaela goes inside. That's when we see the clip that we've seen since the very beginning of her flipping over everything as she's walking back to the room because she's so angry that he is leaving. And y'all, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't her dad the one that passed away from getting hit by a drunk driver? And if I'm remembering correctly, tell me in the comments if I'm mixing up her with one of the other women. But if I'm analyzing that as she is like, oh my God, maybe that situation, it was dark outside, it was nighttime, he left, I never saw him again. And I think that's why she's having this huge reaction and meltdown as production is kind of pulling her back into the room, and she's like, get out, and slamming the door. I am almost 100% sure it is bubbling up, that whole situation with her dad and him leaving, and she basically replaying the situation thinking the same thing is going to happen. So again, it does not excuse her behavior. She needs to realize how to address and deal with that, because she will probably have to continue to deal with that for the rest of her life. I don't know what that feels like to lose a parent in that way, but I definitely understand the reaction based on what she has had happen to her dad. I understand where she may be making the correlation, and where it's just like some people who get that upset, like you really just get upset and mad and want to fight, or you break down and more so want to cry. And she just flips out on the opposite end of the spectrum. And again, not excusing it, because she completely blew up and it was unacceptable, but I get it, if that makes sense. I totally get it because of what she went through with her dad. So Bao basically says she woke up in the middle of the night with Michaela coming into her room after Zack left, because she really had a hard time sleeping. So she ended up calling her sister. Her sister came in the middle of the night, or very early that morning, actually came to pick her up. The couples are all meeting up to eat breakfast, and Johnny is like, he don't know what the hell happened. I don't know where he was at when things just kind of went haywire, if he was already sleeping or what. But the group catches him up on everything that has happened, and basically they realize, oh, we're back to the honeymoon group of people, because we know Zack and Michaela was gone on the honeymoon as well. And they all then start kind of recapping on the night before, and really realizing that Zack was kind of quiet at dinner the previous night as kind of everybody else was talking. So I'm like, probably at that moment, that's where Zack had chose violence, and he knew he was making an exit strategy, and that was where shit was going to hit the fan with Michaela. Like, he already knew that. So Rachel and Jose go off and talk alone. I don't really care, y'all. The episode closes with everybody packing up and getting ready to leave. Ryan said that he's a bit relieved that other stuff was going on to that night before, to kind of take the focus off them. And I'm like, sir, nobody was focused on y'all, so it is what it is. Bao says that she feels really bad about it for both of them. And I'm like, do you really, Bao? I'm not going to do no spoilers, because I don't know if it's true what's been in the gossiping streets. But if y'all have heard it, y'all know why I'm asking that question. Do you really feel bad, Bao? They all stop by a farm to feed some baby goats and stuff. And Brett and Ryan say that they will make the best of this going forward. And Ryan says he's not going to make any excuses anymore. And I'm like, whatever, we'll believe it when we see it. They're just going to try to make this process as fun as they can until it's over. And I'm like, whatever. Johnny said he really appreciated Bao, really having a good attitude this weekend. Like, she really just kind of went for everything and had, just tried whatever. She says that there are still things that, haven't gone right, but she's still appreciating this journey. And again, I'm like, why, girl? Why? Because again, you're one, you talk all this stuff of, I deserve better, I'm not going to put up with this, you're not going to talk to me like that, but then you go right back for more of the violence. I don't understand it, but if y'all like it, I love it. She feels that level 1 conversations are working for them, and they are on the same page for the first time in their marriage. And I'm like, okay. But she says, they haven't argued once. And I'm like, it's because y'all have pretty much avoided each other on this trip. So you can't argue if you aren't talking to each other. Gotcha, Bao. Next week episode looks just as spicy yet again. Looks like Dr. Pepper is back. She's definitely talking to Zack and Michaela. I don't know if she's going to talk to the other couples as well. We see that Brent is approaching Ryan, saying that one of her friends saw him on a dating app. We seen that Johnny said he talked to one of Bao's friends, and things can be pretty damaging if he shares this information. And I'm like, y'all, I'm so over this season. I don't know what to do with myself. But that was the end of the episode. Sorry, I feel like I was all over the place, but I am tired, and this episode was just so draining to me, y'all. But let me know your thoughts. Let's talk about it in the comments below, and I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.